Welcome back to Thinktech Talks. Here on a given Tuesday, we're doing community matters. That means community matters. And we're talking about the incredible advent of Seymour's World, or otherwise known as Let There Be Light.
That's a good way to say it. Thank you.
That's Seymour Kazimirski. Hi, thank you so much for being here, Seymour.
Jay. My pleasure.
He's the host of Seymour's World. He's a serial entrepreneur and a serial philanthropist, which is what a really interesting combination. And we are delighted to have him on board. This is our sort of maiden, it's our second show, but it's our maiden show as Seymour's World. So we want to, sort of introduce him to you as the host of Seymour's World, so you can find something out about him, know where he's coming from, know what he intends to do, and sort of get into the track on things with Seymour's World. So we expect you to come back here every Tuesday at 1 to 2 p.m. and hear what Seymour has to say, wherever he may be in the world, which is part of his show, traveling everywhere in the world.
That's correct.
So Seymour, tell us about yourself.
Well, I guess if we really want to get to know me a little bit better, we should go back to coming to Hawaii, which was in 1976. I came here to open up the New York Deli, which was a Jewish delicatessen, down in Discovery Bay. And that failed miserably. We lost a lot of money on that one.
You know about restaurants, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But it was a very good lesson, and it's part of how my business career really started, was because I was able to learn from those negative lessons and turn them into positive lessons. And I find that working here in Hawaii, one of the issues that is very important is to understand that Hawaii is a very small place, but the world is open for Hawaii business. So from the New York Deli debacle, I then opened up Flora Exotica, and Flora Exotica became a silk flower company that did extremely well. And we landed some major contracts with retailers like Sears, at the time Liberty House, and JCPenney's, and the military market. And I have to give you a very quick example. I got a call from Dallas, Texas, from the headquarters of AFIS, which is Army Air Force Exchange System. And they have over 400 stores throughout the world. And I was doing this little silk flower business here in Hawaii and selling artificial Christmas trees and doing very well here in Hawaii. But some general called up the local office, and they said, we like what this guy is doing with his silk flowers. Do you think he could do it nationally? So they invited me to come to Dallas, and I went to Dallas, and I met with their buyers and their MMs, their merchandise managers, and they said to me, can you do this? And I looked at them straight in the eye, and I said, of course I can. And I walked out of that meeting sweating and asking myself, how am I going to do this? And that was the beginning of my international business. From there, of course, we had to work in China, we had to work in Thailand. In the early 90s, we developed an RFID tag to identify animals. So
what's RFID stand for?
Radio frequency identification. So if you know a dog or a cat that has a microchip in it, you've probably paid for one of my shoelaces. Thank you very much. But it's been a wonderful ride in the RFID business. We went on and on with it. We opened up a public company. I was chairman of the board. Unfortunately, that failed.
See, this is what it means to be a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
These things do not daunt you. You keep on going.
It's really true. The idea of letting failures sit on you will never get you successful. You have to understand the risk factor of a developer or the risk factor of somebody who opens a business. It's critical for us, for all of us, to fail. Because if you don't fail, you're probably not taking enough risks. And those of us who are successful truly use our failures as lessons in life.
Yeah.
And that has become very, very
This is a
good
key
for us.
point in Hawaii. It's a key point for entrepreneurs. We're trying to develop a generation of millennial entrepreneurs, and they need to understand this. And that runs against the cultural grain, which is if you fail, you lose face. But that's really not the way in the 21st century. If you fail, it means you've learned something.
You're absolutely correct. In Seymour's World, in the show that's going to be on every Tuesday, I hope you listen to it, watch it, or even follow it on YouTube. We're going to be talking to entrepreneurs all over the world. We have entrepreneurs in China, in Thailand, in Europe. We have somebody from St. Petersburg that I work with. It's amazing how big the world is, and if you do open up your eyes and you say, I have a product that can work in one of those countries or in an area of business, you have to follow that dream. And dreaming is critical to entrepreneurship. Without dreams, you can't succeed. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, and I go back to that story you told about flying and meeting with APHIS, and they said, "Can you do it?" And you said, "Certainly, we can."
Yeah.
What was going through your mind at that moment? I think it's a really entrepreneurial moment, isn't it? It's a question about whether you can do it, but in order to get this job, you have to say and you have to mean that it wasn't just saying it, you had to mean it.
Well, to understand it, you have to imagine I'm in a boardroom with 8 or 10 people, all the different levels of management, because they are committing to something for their customers in 400 stores that if it falls flat, it doesn't look bad for me, it looks bad for them. They're the ones who really don't like it if it fails. So they're very, very careful about who they want to use inside their stores, who their vendors are going to be. And anybody who does business with the military knows the hoops you have to go through, the same as you do with Walmart or any other major company. When I was in that meeting and we had the proposal approved because they saw how good it was, the moment that they asked that question, I answered it without equivocation. I said, absolutely, we can do it. They didn't ask me, did I have staff in 7 different countries? Did I have enough flower designers, because we were designing floral arrangements? Did I have enough floral designers to do it? They just assumed that I knew what I was doing. And that comes from one of my commentaries, which is all about positive attitude.
Yeah.
Believing that you can do it.
And you can watch that commentary here on Thinktech because we recorded it. We'll be playing it. We want you to know Seymour's philosophy about a good attitude.
It's a mantra for me. It's something that I work with the kids that I mentor, with the business students that I mentor. I look for young business people who want to believe in themselves, believe in their product, and believe in the marketplace. If they have any doubts about any of those 3 pieces of the puzzle, I usually won't work with them. Mm-hmm. And then I will help them, and I will go to extremes to help them. I'll make the introductions for them. I'll help them with their business plans. And this I do free, by the way. It's just part of my way of giving back to the community.
Let's talk about that. I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you do is giving back. What makes you want to do that?
My success. I
mean, the ones that were not failures.
Of course, I don't think about those. Those are gone from my mind. I only think of the ones that I did well with. And because I was so successful in the business ventures that I had, and there were in many different types of businesses. It wasn't just selling retail stores. There was development on one business. We work in China doing import-export. We've done development in China. It's been a wonderful, wonderful staircase for me. Each step that I have gone up has given me more power to believe that I can do this for other people. So about 10 years ago, the epiphany for me was developing a program to help young business people. I felt that was very, very important. And because I was successful, why shouldn't I share it? It goes much further back. It goes back to my mother. My mother was a Holocaust survivor, and she worked so hard in her life, and I saw her struggle and wash people's clothes. I put that in my commentary, and we basically slept on dirt floors, and she rented out our rooms. We didn't think anything of it.
They were alive. That was the important thing.
Absolutely. We were able to survive in conditions where most people would think it's terrible, but for us, that was normal. And that gave us strength. All the 3 of us, my brother and my sister, and myself, we developed a strength that I think is unique to people who have survived through trials and tribulations. And that has been a wonderful lesson for us. And that gives us that strength to say, I can do it and I will do it, rather than why should I do it? And it's a philosophy in life that has done very well for me. And I find it's something that I want to give to other business people, especially young entrepreneurs.
Have you always been a philanthropist, or is this something relatively recent in your life?
We have to define philanthropy. Philanthropy to me is helping others. About 15 years ago, my mother came to Hawaii, and she wanted to speak on the Holocaust to different locales. So I had her interviewed on all the morning TV shows. I had her speak to the Rotary clubs, to all the military organizations, to the universities, and she was here for 7 days, and she had, I think, 8 or 9 appointments. And I saw how much
whirlwind trip that was.
and she was 80 years old
Oh, gee.
at the time. But she wouldn't come here unless she was doing something for other people. And to her, the lessons on the Holocaust are very, very important because of how she suffered. She lost 65 members of her family. Nobody was alive. Just her and my father were the only people left in both their families. So, and they struggled and survived through ghettos and everything that's in her book. So we find that when a parent teaches something to a child, it stays with them for a long period of time. We may not recognize it until later in life. And that's what happened to me. When she came to Hawaii and I saw what she did in these talks and lectures, not so much for the content, because I knew what the content was, but how many people came up to her afterwards and just wanted to shake her hand and say thank you for telling us the story, because it made them feel that they should be better to other people, that they should give back to other people. And that's why I started giving back. So I don't think of it as philanthropy. I just think of it as my way of life today is, and you know I have several programs that I work with, that's the way I want to give back.
Well, that's Seymour Kazimirski. He's the host of Seymour's World here on Thinktech, which plays 1 to 2 p.m. every Tuesday, just like now. And he's a serial entrepreneur and a serial philanthropist. This is Thinktech Talks, Community Matters, the incredible advent of Seymour's World, or Let There Be Light. I'm Jay Fidell. We'll be right back after this short break.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Hori for Thinktech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Hori. Mahalo.
We're back, we're live, we're here with Seymour Kazimirski, host of Seymour's World, which plays every day, every Tuesday, 1 to 2 p.m. Maybe it should play every day.
No.
On Tuesdays. Seymour is a social entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and also the host of Seymour's World. We're calling this show, which is the premier show in the series here on Thinktech, The Incredible Advent of Seymour's World, or Let There Be Light, with Seymour Kazimirski. So, Seymour, what about the show? I mean, how do you see the show philosophically? How do you see it in terms of coverage and, and detail? Who is going to be speaking about what and where?
I think the Seymour's World is the way you sucked me into doing this show.
I do my best.
You did a great job. It was like I have to tell you that we did an introduction show about a month ago, and it was very successful, and we had a tremendous amount of comments. And Jay said to me, "Seymour, maybe you should have your own show." And of course, he was appealing to my very small, humble attitude, which I don't have, by the way. I have very little humility, and
Yes, you do.
and he said, "Come on, Seymour, you could do it. Let's just call it Seymour's World." And I thought he was kidding. And I said, "I'll tell you what, I will consider it. I'll send an email to some of my friends around the world. And if I get a couple of people that say they will be guests on the show based on what I think the show should talk about, then we'll do it." Within 24 hours, I had so many responses from around the world of people that want to come onto the show because they've done business with me or they have an interesting product to do. And I said, yes. So what's the show going to be about? Seymour's World is going to be a human interest show. It's going to be a human interest from the business standpoint. It's going to be human interest from the people standpoint. How we help people, how we can help young entrepreneurs here in Hawaii, how we can help people who are not doing well in their business and follow them through. We're going to have people like Jimmy Borges on, who has survived stage 4 cancer and works with me on a couple of my programs. We're going to have Cynthia White on from Kids Hurt Too. She's an amazing person who helps young people. She has 200 to 300 young people who have no parents, and she helps them through their daily lives. We're going to have Bernard Offen. He'll be here in February. He is in his upper 80s, and he is an actual Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
He is one of the few.
Very
left.
interesting to meet. You know, as we go on, there are fewer of them around.
He's one of the few.
Yeah.
And he and I have produced a program for Hawaii, for the educational system. And we did this video that is now taught in schools, and I'm invited to lecture. Well, it so happens he's here in February, and he's going to be a guest on our show, and he'll tell his story, which is an amazing story. You will be captivated by it. We're also going to have Hubert Meyer and Rosita Meyer out of Hong Kong. Why? Hubert is an entrepreneur like I am, but his wife just survived a stage 4 cancer as well. How did she do it, though? She did not do traditional Western medicine. She did Chinese medicine. And we want to hear, how did she survive?
Yes.
How did she go from having a cancer where the Western doctors said that she had only 3 to 4 months to live, to erasing the cancer out of her body? And you know, this is not accepted by Western medicine thoughts, but I want people to understand from somebody who survived it, what she did and what she had to believe to make this thing go through. We're going to have a developer, a very young developer here in Hawaii, Tyler Green, who's working on the Kauai project. So Tyler is going to come on with us. We're going to have from China, from Beijing, we're going to have a very good friend of mine, Sherry Lim, who is an app developer and who believes that app development in China will surpass U.S. app development within 12 months.
Oh.
Within 12 months. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to have Jennifer Arcuri from London. Jennifer runs a company called Innotech. Innotech is an innovation tech company based out of London, who I helped. And they get £5 million from the government, from the UK government, to push Innotech and to push innovation in London. And I would like her to explain to us why they can do it and we can't do it here in Hawaii, because I think it's so important that...
Can learn from them.
Yes, we can. I've got probably 20 or 30 guests lined up over the next few months already.
Let me take a moment and just talk about, that conversation about Seymour's World. Thinktech is into enlightenment. Our mission is raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification of business, and globalism, among other things, and things connected with those things. And what that boils down to is enlightenment. We want to raise public awareness and enlighten people in Hawaii about things they may not know. And we want to have shows that go for 50 minutes and allow hosts and guests to drill down and really find the essence, find the advice and the consultation and the education there in a real world sense. And don't you think Seymour is perfect for this? He touches all the bases.
I don't know about that.
Well, technology, we got that. Energy, we have to explore. Diversification, certainly. And, I had the impression when you were talking earlier that when you do these serial entrepreneur things, they're not really serial, they're parallel. You work on more than one at a time, don't you?
I do. Yes, several actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is about serial entrepreneur that becomes a parallel entrepreneur.
Well, I think what's interesting when you talk about that is if a lot of business people focus on one lane in the highway, basically, the highway meaning a lot of business opportunities. I don't. I focus on several. We're working on a titanium mining operation in Nova Scotia, Canada. We're working on a black rice project, which is a nutritional product, which our guest will be on later this month. Black rice to replace acai, which is a very famous product that was developed for nutritional value. We're working on energy consumption projects in China with Victor. Unfortunately, he doesn't speak English, but I'm going to have his assistant on who will translate for him. And he has a battery that already is 10 times the consumption, meaning it has the ability to hold 10 times the amount of power than our traditional lithium-ion batteries.
I told you we'd be into energy.
Yes, we are.
See the editorial in today's paper about that? It's
Yes, I
happening.
did,
It's
actually.
happening.
Yeah. And it's happening quicker than we see. It's just that here in the U.S., one of the good things and the bad things, I'm not giving it all bad, is we have a hyper-regulation. And because of hyper-regulation, it becomes very difficult to bring products to market in efficient time frames. So for businesses, we find more and more businesses in biomedical fields, in energy fields, going overseas to do all of their R&D work because they can get it done much easier.
You see what I mean? My point is made for me. Seymour can, show us how to diversify the economy. He can bring new wisdom, a whole new vitality to the entrepreneurial generation, the millennials especially. Hawaii's had a problem with entrepreneurism in the last few years, maybe more than that, and we have to give that to our kids. We have to give them a state that loves entrepreneurism and entrepreneurs and covets them. And we have to bring them here. We have to train them from among us. And Seymour can do that. He's doing it. Already is doing that. You can tell. The other thing is the globalism. That's the last point of the mission. And, Seymour is a global person. I want to ask you, actually, how you got to be so global. Because Hawaii needs to be global. We are a speck in the Pacific, and we can't afford to fold in on ourselves. We have to see the world as an island that relates to everything, everywhere. It's our strength. So why did you get so global?
It was a matter of happenstance. When we first started going into the silk flower business, we couldn't buy silk flowers made in the USA. The price was ridiculously high. So one trip to China, this is in 1980, we're talking 30 years ago, when going into China was not like going in today with five-star hotels. It was bring your own toilet paper and your own water and everything else. But it was an amazing, amazing philosophy that I saw on that scale. I saw a country where the can-do, will-do, that's one of my mantras, the can-do, will-do is just marvelous. An example, AFIS, Army Air Force Exchange System, asked me to make them a model. This was a plastic model of a fighter jet, the F-15 at the time. And they said, we're going to need 1 million pieces of these to put into all of our stores. And I said, certainly, I can find that. I went to 3 U.S. manufacturers.
Were you sweating at the time?
No.
Okay.
Oh, but I have many other stories you'll hear over the next few months. I went to 3 U.S. manufacturers, sent them the specs I wanted, and almost to 99% of them said, we can give you price quotations and spec design and liability clauses and all, paint, there are all sorts of specs that you need. And it'll take about 60 days to get it. I said, I don't have 60 days. I need to know right now. I'll place an order, but right now, none of them would budge. I flew over to China. I met, I'll never forget, with Tony Lee of Hong Kong City Toy. And I said, Tony, here's the plane that I need. I said, but I need to know how long it's going to take to make, what the delivery schedule is, all the different business factors. And he said, where are you staying? And I said, I'm staying at the Hyatt Hotel. He said, we'll have it for you tomorrow morning. Oh. And the next morning,
Chinese.
They worked, I don't know how big of a team he assembled. They worked all night long. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I had my sample made. I had delivery dates, schedules, all the paint requirements, everything scheduled out, and they were able to get the contract. I realized then and there that the world out there is much bigger than the world we have here.
And faster.
Oh, extremely.
May I tell you a
Sure.
couple of stories of my own
absolutely.
experience in China? Two. In 2004, I went, I was the chair at the time of the High Tech Development Corporation, state agency charged with, fostering the tech industry in Hawaii. And we had a contingent went on our own nickel just to see what was going on in China, because we realized way later than you did that there was something very important happening there. And we went to Tianjin, where there's a big tech park there, and it was just starting. And we talked to two people there that blew my mind. The first one, we said, just suppose, a Hawaii organization, government or non-government, wanted to take space in the tech park. How long would it take to get the necessary approvals and sign, the rental agreement, whatever it is? So we can do that in the morning. And I believe him, and I think that's the way they operate. And it blew my mind, because you try to do that here, especially with the government, I forget about it. The second story was, it was a guy actually who had been trained in the U.S., who was running a circuit board company in the park in Tianjin. And we were, schmoozing with him, and I asked him, so how long would it take you to make a circuit board that would do this, that, and the other thing? And he said, well, we'd have to design it, we'd have to manufacture it, we'd put our team together, probably by the end of the week.
That's the way it is.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But you got to hand it to them, and that's can do. It's the same attitude. Are you sure you're not Chinese?
No, I am definitely not Chinese. Although I have so many friends, my wife and I have such good friends all over the world. But in China, Thailand, Southeast Asia, it's a different way of doing business. I'm not saying it's 100% right, and I understand a lot of the complaints we have about their working conditions. I remember taking Sue, my wife, into a fur factory. We were, believe it or not, buying furs for the military, and we walked into that factory and we couldn't believe what we saw. Fur was flying all over the place, into people's noses. I mean, how could they work in these terrible, terrible conditions? And I said to myself afterwards, I didn't say anything to the owner of the factory, but I said to myself, how can they make a fur at such a low price? It's because of these conditions.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes not up to us to dictate to others how to live their lives. And you'll see in a couple of episodes we have where we talk about that. We talk about how America and our inability to want to understand other people's ways of doing things and living their lives versus us telling them what to do and how to do it. And in business, of course, price is really the bottom line, and everybody realizes that if you're going to make something and you want to make it less expensive, you have to make it overseas. We can complain about working conditions, we complain about everything else, but unfortunately, that's part of what they have, and we have to accept that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, business is global these days.
Yes, it is.
The 21st century business equals global, and global equals business. Seymour can teach us so much about his adventures, and P.S., he's willing to do that. How often do you find that? Thank you, Seymour, for being available, for coming down here, for taking a show that will expand our consciousness. We're going to take a short break now. Before we go, though, I'm going to tell you what's on my wristband. It's
Make them smile.
Make him smile. It's my wristband. And Seymour's got the same wristband.
Yes.
And then we have pins.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear after this break about these organizations that make kids smile, and Seymour's role in philanthropy now, and I suppose for the past several years, and what he plans to do again to help kids smile in Hawaii, even kids who have serious problems. That's Seymour Kazimirski here on Seymour's World, the incredible advent of Seymour's World, or Let There Be Light. Serial entrepreneur, serial philanthropist. This is Thinktech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell, and community does matter. We'll be right back.
We want to thank our underwriters. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions. I'm Nicole Hori. Thanks so much for joining us on Thinktech. I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
We're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell. That is Seymour Kazimirski, the host of Seymour's World. He's a serial entrepreneur and a serial philanthropist here on Thinktech. in Community Matters, the incredible advent of Seymour's World. That is the show, and also known as Let There Be Light. So, Seymour, we've talked about who you are, like where you come from, although I know there's a lot more than what we talked about. We talked about, your business experiences, your good ones, and maybe some of the ones that weren't so good. And now it's time for us to talk about your community activities, because that's really part of you, and it's part of Seymour's World. Because Seymour's World and you are pretty much the same. We get to know what you've done. So tell us about Make 'em Smile. Tell us about what you're doing in the community.
Make 'em Smile is one of my, as you say, it's one of the things I'm very passionate about. My mother was a musician, and I'm a musician as well. I play piano. As you know, you were up at our house. The idea of taking music and bringing it to sick children hit me about 2 years ago. And I wanted to bring a program where I couldn't bring my piano with me to the hospital, but I had two very good friends, Jimmy Borges, who's a famous entertainer here in Hawaii, and Leah Bernstein, who is president of Mountain Apple Records.
Sure.
They're both very close friends of ours for years and years. And I said to them, what if we could ask a few musicians, your friends, Jimmy's friends and Leah's friends, to go to the hospital for a couple of hours and play for the kids. We started with one. And we went, and I couldn't believe what happened. The tension in the children's faces, the parents sitting beside these kids next to their bed, and some of them are chronic, they have cancers, and some of them are just there for leg operations. But the one thing you could see was tension. You could see that they weren't happy to be there. They were not there for a good reason. And all of a sudden, you get some of our musicians playing ukulele or guitar or singing and dancing, and the smile starts to come and the tension disappears, and you see these children just feeling like, oh my God, this is so nice, even if it's for 5 minutes or 7 minutes. And I said, that's it, we're going to keep doing it. Well, today we're almost a year old. We're at Kaiser Hospital, we're at Shriners Hospital, we're at Kapiolani Hospital every week. And we go with musicians and play for a couple of hours for the different wards inside the hospital. It is.
You go with them?
I go with them when I'm in town. Yes, I'm with them. I can't go for too long, very honestly, because I cry. It is such an emotional piece when you're there and you see these kids and their parents, and they come and they hug you and say, thank you so much for doing this. You don't know how much it means just to have. I mean, they right now, the hospitals line up the patients waiting for the Make 'em Smile musician. Every Tuesday at Kaiser, every Wednesday and Friday at Kapiolani, and every Thursday at Shriners.
How did you get into the hospitals? It isn't that easy for a nonprofit organization such as this, a group of musicians, entertainers, and philanthropists, I suppose. It's not like you walk up to the front door and they let you right in.
You remember my mantra? Can do, will do.
Okay.
I just did it. I went to Kapiolani Hospital. We happened to know some of the doctors there, and we went to Bob Wilkinson and we said, Bob, can you help us out? And he went to the president, and she said, this sounds like a good idea. Let's try it. And the ball started rolling, and the snowball got bigger, and it's become such a magnificent program. So now we're expanding again. We're going to go to Tripler Hospital. We've been asked to go to Maui, to the outside island. I got a call from some hospital in Chicago wondering if I could do it in Chicago, but I didn't pull that idea that I did with the silk flowers. I didn't say, yes, absolutely.
Too much.
That's a little too much. But I find that the Make 'em Smile thing is a win-win. There's no losers in Make 'em Smile. By the way, we don't raise any money. There's no donations. We don't take money for anything. Everybody, Jimmy and Leah and all of the musicians.
All volunteers.
Total volunteer basis. I pick up the tab for the pins and for the wristbands and things like that. But other than that, I don't want money. I don't want to open up a 501c3. I don't want anything. All I want is to give something back to the kids. And that's what Make 'em Smile is all about.
Wow.
We have another one, besides that.
So what is it that removes the tension? How does that work? I remember Samuel Wong, I think his name was. He was the conductor of the Honolulu Symphony back, 10, 15 years ago. And when he left here, he was a medical doctor. When he left here, he took up the practice of music as a palliative treatment. to try to help people, because he believed, and I think we all believe, that music actually is a therapy, and I think that's what he's doing today.
We call it music is healing.
Okay.
That's part of how we think about it. The only way to understand it, and anybody is welcome to come, they just have to call me and I'll arrange for them to come. If you are a musician and you want to join, call me. Sue and I are running the whole thing. Jimmy and Leah handle the musicians to make sure that we have enough so that we don't want to overtax the musicians. We ask them to play once or twice a month for 2 hours, and then we have enough with 22. But guess what? I get calls every day. Do you have an opening? I'm free on Thursday. Do you need somebody? They love it so much. The hospitals, of course, love it because they see what it does to the kids. Yeah. The nurses, we usually play at each hospital in the nurses' lounge. And that is amazing. You see about 20 different cameras, and the guys are playing the ukulele and or singing or whatever it may be, and it gives them a respite because their job is very, very tough dealing with it. So give me where it's not a win-win. I have not had one negative response to it yet. It's been that terrific.
So you mentioned Jimmy Borges, but and we all know who that is, an old-time Hawaii musician. Where did I see this recently? It was in photographs that you sent me. Jimmy Borges growing up and all this.
Well, he's coming on our show.
It'll be great to meet him.
Yeah.
You also mentioned Leah Bernstein. I don't know if people really know the connection between Leah Bernstein and John DeMello, and also Israel Kamakabipa. Why don't you talk about it?
Well, Leah and John obviously are the people behind Iz and his success.
Mountain Apple
Records, and it is amazing how they nurtured and were able to get him to where the Iz record is today. Iz, he may not be alive, but his music is very, very, very much alive. In Germany, it is the #1 record. It's hard to believe. In Germany, the #1 record is his record. But it's magnificent. Their ability to understand talent and not to try to reshape the talent, but to nurture the talent is critical. And I've always admired John for being able to take Hawaii musicians and do that with them. He's very focused on what type of musician he likes. And of course, the Henry Caponos and all the Casimiro brothers, they're all part of Mountain Apple, and the success comes from what they do. Music is something that Leah and John, when I told them about this program, were behind it 100%, obviously. And their musicians are part of our program, too.
Leah has been on this program years ago.
Really?
Actually, on my radio show on HPR.
I should try to get her back on again.
Yes.
She
add one more to your list.
She will. Well, as you can see, the list is like 30 or 40 already. But Carol Kai is coming on. We're going to talk about, not about Carol's Aloha Run or anything. We're going to talk about Carol Kai, how she made a success of herself. Yeah. What really got her to the prominence that she has today. And she is a very big giver, backer to the community. Yeah. She's wonderful that way. Yeah. Absolutely wonderful.
Everybody loves Carol Kai.
Yeah. Now, we do have another program, I Am in Charge.
Yes, but I'm going to take a break first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that's Seymour Kazimirski. He's the host of Seymour's World. This is the maiden voyage of Seymour's World today. I'm only standing in for Seymour, actually. That's Seymour. He's a serial entrepreneur and a serial philanthropist. This is Thinktech Talks. I'm Jay Fidell here on Community Matters, talking about the incredible advent of Seymour's World and our lineup of programs. And let there be light. Let there be a break for a minute, too. We'll be right back. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell for Thinktech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaiian Foreign Trade Zone, number 9, has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBED, the Hawaii Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program. It does so to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Jay Fidell of Thinktech Mahalo. Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidell. This is Thinktech Talks. We're talking about community matters, the incredible advent of Seymour's World and our lineup of shows at Tuesday, 1 to 2 p.m. every week, or Let There Be Light with Seymour Kazimirski. So, Seymour, you had another charity. We need to talk about that, too. It's...
You Are in Charge.
You Are in Charge. Now, this is different than Make Them Smile.
Correct, yes.
What does this one do?
You Are in Charge is a program we put together for foster children. Foster kids, or foster youth as we say, at 18 years old are pretty well left out on the street because the state doesn't believe that they should be taken care of after that. So somebody has to. And I developed a program where we would mentor foster kids to the point where they would come to an 8-week session and climb a ladder of success. The biggest issue with foster kids and foster youth is their history. Not one of them has excellent history. It's all terrible.
Yeah.
From all types of abuses, sexual, physical, emotional. It is really, it's actually terrible to hear. And you will hear from some of them because they are going to come in my show.
Very interesting to hear.
But the main focus was to not forget about the past, but not to make it their future thinking. So I wanted to make sure that they look at their future from a positive attitude. And we have a ladder, and they climb that ladder, and each step in the ladder gives them a level of confidence where they have to stand a little taller, talk to people, open up, be able to decide where they want their career to go. Do they want to focus in school? Do they want to go to work? Do they want to do a vocation? There's so many ways that they can go forward with their lives. So for me, it was very, very important that at the end of 8 weeks, they understand that they have graduated from You Are in Charge. And I give them a t-shirt, which you'll see that they wear, called I Am in Charge. And we have young people in there. You'll see, if many of you look at my commentary, which is on YouTube, right? You will see one, James Labrie, 19 years old, paraplegic, cannot move his arms, cannot move his legs. Everything he has to be helped with, including bodily functions. And he is more positive than I am. How can that be?
Incredible.
Well, he has taken all of those negative issues and put them somewhere. And now he's focusing on his positive side. And he wants to be a journalist. And every single one of the young people, I have 38, by the way, of them.
That's quite a caseload, actually.
Yeah, it is. Every single one of them has the ability to climb that ladder. And when they come to the top of the ladder, and they realize that they're on the top step and everybody is holding their feet because they realize they need support from all of us, from everybody there that's in the group. That's when they graduate and they get a t-shirt that says, I am in charge.
So the You Can Be in Charge, or You're in Charge program, you do that.
Yes, it's my program. Yeah.
You know what it sounds like? It's, I mean, that's the problem with foster kids. They're batted from pillar to post.
Correct.
And they don't have the same relationships with, there are no parents to help them, and there's nobody to give them really caring, personal, avuncular advice. You stand in the shoes of that. You are that.
I try.
Loco parentis is what it is.
Yeah. I try. I focus in my now there are many state programs. Unfortunately, a lot of them are hodgepodge, and they're not really working with the kids on an individual basis. In each group, I only have 8. And the group works together. It's not me telling them what to do, it's the group telling them what to do. Do we have time for one story
Sure.
that I could tell you? I'll tell you a story of a young man. I won't say his name because I haven't gotten permission yet. But he was one of the quietest guys in one of these groups that we had. And in the 4th group, the 4th step up the ladder is called Passion with Purpose, which means identify your passion and then turn it into a purpose of your life. And this young man...
Not a bad way to go.
I know. And this young man is very, very quiet, very, very shy, always the last one to speak. But my rule is, if you're coming to this group, the first thing you have to do is get a letter from either your parent, your step-parents, or your teacher to make sure that everything is okay. And then you have to stand up and you address the group. That's all part of what I believe is growing up and looking into the future. So with Passion with Purpose, a lot of the people would stand in the group and they would talk about what they wanted to do. This young man was so quiet, and I said, it's your turn. And he stood up and just his head was down and didn't want to look at any of us, and all of a sudden he just looked straight at me and he said, my passion is coming to this group.
Oh.
And what it was, it meant that he was so comfortable coming to this group, and he explained it afterwards about why it's his passion, because it's so important. He's got so much baggage that he's carrying. This is the only place in the world, in his world, the only place in the world where he felt comfortable enough to come every single week, not miss a week, make sure that all of his homework is done properly and all that sort of stuff, and make coming to You're in Charge his passion.
From that conversation, you know how important it is to him.
Yes.
And you know that he'll benefit by it.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a mitzvah. That's what you live, mitzvah, isn't it? Tell the people what a mitzvah is.
A mitzvah is something you do for other people that gives them something that they can't get from anywhere else. And I think a mitzvah is in Jewish, it's a Jewish expression, is something that you can do. I'm a firm believer that giving money to a charity is a wonderful thing to do, but to me the true mitzvah is giving your time. Giving a moment to just shake somebody's hand, put your arm around their shoulder, talk to them a little bit, give them just a minute of a personal time that they can feel comfortable with. That to me is the biggest mitzvah.
You know what I got out of that, what you just said, Seymour? It's not just the disabled kids. It's not the foster children. It's everyone.
Of course.
You can do mitzvah with everyone you meet.
Of course, absolutely. It's something that for me it comes naturally. I just love helping people. I don't know if it's all for my mother. It's something that's developed, but I just find that it makes me feel so good that I get the mitzvah as well. When I go to the hospitals and I see these kids smile, or their parents smile, when I see the foster kids stand up and put their arm around me and say, "Thank you for what you've done for me. Can I come to the next session even though it's only 8 weeks and they can't come back?" They want to come back because it's something that they realize helps them stand on their own 2 feet. What could be better than helping people, especially kids, stand on their own 2 feet?
There are certain people in our community, like Seymour Kazimirski, who really are special. And your comments just now, Seymour, remind me of another good friend of mine by the name of Brad Wong. He's a retired surgeon, and he runs Aloha Medical Mission. They go in, they do surgery in Asia and in small towns in Nepal and the like. And his view of it, he doesn't have to do that. It's all volunteer, and it's personally costly to do it. But his view of it is that in everyone, in all of us, is a need to help other people. And if we do that, if we touch that need, realize that need, we realize ourselves.
I agree.
So at the end of the day, it improves your life as well as the life of the people that you
I agree.
help.
It's true.
So that's Seymour Kazimirski. Just a little sort of a little bit of Seymour. Today is a little bit of Seymour Kazimirski, and he's going to start his show next week in earnest. I won't be here. I'm gone.
And
from
I will be
Florida
gone too.
by Skype.
Yes, our show will be from Florida next week, and we're going to talk to Chris Kadowski. Chris Kadowski is one of the foremost trainers for the Miami Dolphins football team, who actually was here in Hawaii. And my son was a football player, and he trained my son. And he has a very, very unique way of helping people understand what working out really is, rather than pumping iron and doing all that sort of stuff. And I think it's important to hear his point of view. So we'll talk to him next week. We'll talk to you from Florida next week.
Yes.
Yep.
Seymour Kazimirski from the what are we calling this
Seymour's
now?
World.
He's the host of Seymour's World. He's a social entrepreneur and social philanthropist here on Thinktech Talks in the serial. And the series, and we're calling this country, I can't read my handwriting, I'm sorry. Community Matters Today, the incredible advent of Seymour's World on Thinktech Talks, or Let There Be Light.
See you all next week.
See you all next week. And in a few minutes, you'll see Senator Josh Green in healthcare in Hawaii. So stay right there. Aloha.